Hey everyone, welcome back to another amazing episode of Jujutsu Kaisen Megapod, presented by NerdyJock Productions. This is my co-host DK, whose imminent domain is the infinite void.
And this is my co-host Kevin Ketcham, aka the NerdyJock, whose favorite kind of woman is a tall woman with a big ass.
Oh yeah. A couple of quick things we need to touch on before we actually get into this pod today. Just want to say how you're doing, Dan. You doing good?
I'm doing great, man. Yeah, this is, we've really, however you feel about these episodes, we haven't talked about it a whole lot off pod, but we've certainly turned a corner.
Yeah.
The world map has expanded a little bit. I mean, we've gone from just kind of setup to just like a huge quantum leap with these.
Yeah, a lot of information, a lot to break down in this episode for sure.
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to hit everything perfectly. That we might have to make some corrections later on, but we're going to try our best to just have a really good time here and hit on as much as we can remember and as much as Dan took notes.
It was all world building, these 4 episodes. Yeah, there was so much stuff to track.
New characters, new plot points, new cursed energy techniques, pretty much everything.
It's like when you do a board game night and you spend an hour because it's a really complex board game just explaining the rules of the game.
Right.
I feel like in the story, that's where we still are.
Oh no, we're definitely in the learning the first 4 hours of a brand new Japanese RPG is what I took.
Totally.
And
it's funny because the author kind of even made that comparison too
a couple times. So that was helpful, but it's definitely a lot of information to break down, which is cool because we know that a lot of cool stuff is coming forward because of these episodes. But before we dig deep and go into this, I do want to touch on a couple more things. I just want to give a big shout out and thank you to one of our Patreon subscribers, Joel P. He hooked us up with a brand new server from TerraMaster that we can store all of our data and all of our episodes online. Which, by the way, online, hopefully you're watching us on YouTube. If you haven't started yet, like and subscribe. We just actually hit a milestone, right?
Yeah, we did. 500 subscribers.
500
so everybody,
subscribers.
Thank you so much for watching along. If you are a fan of Jujutsu Kaisen, or if you're not a fan of Jujutsu Kaisen, watch along with us. We're having a lot of fun just exploring something new, and we're excited to just go deeper into it and go back and hit Dragon Ball and hit all the other stuff that we like eventually.
Yeah, exactly. So, and if you're just jumping on the train right now with Jujutsu Kaisen, make sure to check out our Dragon Ball Z Megapod. We just finished the Frieza saga not too long ago.
Right. So
you can catch up and back on. And after we're done with Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1, we plan on going to back to Dragon Ball Z for the Cell Saga and vice versa. We might split that up in 2 halves and do maybe Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 in between. But either way, we're going to have a lot more great Dragon Ball Z content to come and more sneaky cool shows coming up too.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we've just got so much stuff to cover. We've had people requesting that we do top 10 lists and stuff like that. There's a lot to do, but we're excited to have you along.
And everyone, by the way, online has been so supportive, and we're so thankful for what you guys have given us from insight, some new ideas and theories that we haven't touched on yet. And one more disclaimer, actually, too. If you are on the YouTube, we are virginal. That's our disclaimer. We are
we're babies.
We're babies. We are first years at Jujutsu High. 0 cursed energy, 0 techniques. We have not watched ahead. We have not read ahead.
No.
So we are literally going in virginal here. So if we sound stupid saying crazy theories, that is awesome. Let us know. But don't spoil it for us if you don't mind.
No spoilers. Yeah,
spoilers,
absolutely. We might be grandpas in terms of anime, as the kids say. You know, we talk about animes from the 80s and 90s mostly.
Right.
We're exploring something that's not terribly new, but new to us. I mean, it came out in 2018. And we haven't seen it. So yeah, please no spoilers. If we touch on anything, even if we're right about something, please don't tell us. We're being very disciplined. Normally, something like this, I would just start binging all the way through because it's like, I need to figure out what's going on. I need to get to the point where everybody's saying this is the craziest thing ever. But we're being very disciplined. We're only watching for the tiny chunks, 4 at a time for each recording.
Yeah. So with 23 episodes, so that's what? 6 episodes we're going to probably do on the first season. So this is number 2 we're recording right now.
Right. Are there 13 or 26 episodes total of the first season? Do you know?
I thought it was 23. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
I'm like 80% sure.
It's like standard anime, usually like 26 episodes a season. But lately, some studios just do 13. They've sort of adopted the Western model as it was 10 years ago.
Right.
Now, the Western model is like 6 episodes per season or
10 at the most.
Yeah, 10
like
at the
an
most.
HBO kind of show as well.
Right.
And then we have, Jujutsu Kaisen 0, which is a prequel to season 1. So
which I read last year.
Oh, wow.
I read that last year. So I'm not, so that's my disclaimer is I did have some exposure to Jujutsu Kaisen before.
You lying, sandbagging son of a bitch.
Because people told me, oh, you need to read it, and I have the Jump app.
Okay.
They're not a sponsor, but they're great for all of your manga needs, at least the ones that are published by Shonen Jump. I don't know if you've ever messed with Kodansha's app. It is the most insane thing I've ever experienced. It's like you have to like gamble in order to earn reading points and stuff like that. It just makes no sense. But
addictive.
But yeah, I did read the first chapters of a lot of famous manga at that time, and I thought that Jujutsu Kaisen 0 was the first chapter.
Okay.
So I did meet Panda a little early.
Okay.
And I believe Inumaki was also in that. So met him early. I don't know if there was a kid in that was the main character, and I'm like, do I know him now? Is that Megumi? Has he grown up? I don't remember. It was last year.
I mean, fortunately for us, this show is a very slow unravel. I mean, we are learning new stuff every day. We're getting new characters every day, and we're just trying to figure out what's going on. So,
it's like the Matrix, like you're just getting stabbed in the head and just information downloaded.
Yeah.
But you don't have an understanding of what any of it means.
Yeah, like I mean, I've talked to this off pod. I've rewatched every episode so far, like at least twice.
Right.
I think in all honesty, you kind of need a third try. And that's what makes Jujutsu Kaisen really good, though, before we even get into the episodes and what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
Is that this doesn't really hold your hand. I mean, there is a scene where, Jogo, the volcano head is what I like to call him.
Yeah, the volcano head curse.
Yeah, cycloptic volcano headed curse. He's talking with Suguru Geto about Yuji and Sukuna.
Right.
And then like he also mentions a couple other names that like I was like, have you even heard these names before? And what is going on? Who are these characters? And so it helped to rewatch a second time where he's talking about Gojo and then the cursed objects as well, which we'll get in that later. But it does warrant a rewatch. So even though I watched it twice, I'm still, God, I would say my knowledge and wisdom on even these 8 episodes is still like 60%, you know?
It's a story where you can feel the author's shadow world heavily.
Yes.
It's not something that the author thought very deeply about, wrote a lot of notes about, and is just slowly kind of, flicking pebbles at our head of, here's this thing, here's this character that we haven't met yet, here's this mystery about this character that we kind of know, here's something about this person's past, and you can tell it's all planned and all that stuff, but it's also just the subtle way that it's all kind of being introduced in piecemeal. It's it is a lot. We both, I think, watched these episodes twice,
right?
And at the end of the second viewing of all of them, I'm like, I do need one more time.
Yeah,
one more time. I feel like I've got a okay grasp of it. So I'm gonna screw up the world building. I'm gonna screw up the magic system many, many times because it definitely, there's so much information, but I think I'm starting to understand it a little bit better. Right. But like we said, these 4 episodes, even though there's more of a reveal, this is like setting up a board game right now. We're just learning the rules. Yeah,
this is like Dungeons and Dragons, and we just wrote the rules, the board.
Right.
So, all right.
Let's jump right in.
Jump right in.
Episode 5 is Curse Womb Must Die Part 2. The intro to it is the exact same where we left off, where Sukuna, having defeated the special grade curse in the juvenile detention center, is annoyed because he has to relinquish Yuji's body back to him, and then immediately it's just like, oh, I don't need to.
He's like, he thought he would have to, and he didn't at all. Yeah. And now he has full control over Yuji for now.
Right.
Pretty cool start.
And in the last episode, we were hypothesizing what would happen next.
Yeah.
Now that this guy is unleashed, and we get it immediately.
Yeah. So do you want to say what happened? What in the first minute and a half, the first thing Yuji does? Or Sukuna does, sorry.
Yeah, so Megumi, who has rescued Nobara, is waiting outside. he senses, oh, the barrier has lifted, so the special grade is dead. And then Sukuna is there immediately behind him.
Yeah, and just kind of taunting Megumi too. Not really even, he's not worried about him. He's not even scared of him. He's just, hey, he's like, no need to fight. Let's just kind of talk this out for a minute here.
Right. And then to make his point, he rips off Yuji's shirt and then rips his heart out.
Yeah, he literally does the Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom scene, but with his own arm, pulls his head out. And this was actually tough to watch. And I've seen some gruesome animes. I've seen some crazy shit before. But this one was like, oh, it hurt even the second time to watch it.
It was a surprise. Yeah. I mean, the one thing I will definitely say about the author is just bold swings. Yes. Every little choice. I mean, we were talking about in the last episode how episode 4 of the series was a step up in terms of its action and world building compared to the other episodes. This episode just pushes the entire thing off the cliff.
Yes.
And then it just keeps going from there. Episodes 6 and 7 go even further.
Yeah.
But yeah, the ripping the heart out thing, we're treated to a little bit of world building where he says, it was dumb of Yuji not to make a pact with me. Right. And we're like, what the hell does that mean? A pact? He rips the heart out and he basically says, I can live without this heart, but Yuji can't. So he won't switch back. Because if he does, he'll die.
If he does, he die. And since we're already talking about this, because I think this heart scene is quite possibly one of the most important parts of this episode, which there's a ton in this episode, by the way.
Yeah.
But I wonder, Dan, what do you think? Do you think Yuji not having his own heart will be a factor later on in the manga or the anime in seasons to come? Or that maybe he loses a part of himself? Because his heart was sitting on a piece of grass. They just threw it in the grass. And I'm like, well, are they not going to pick it up, put it on ice, try to at least get it back to him? But we know from the last episode, right, that Sukuna can regenerate limbs and body parts.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that means like Yuji's heart. Maybe he'll get another heart. Maybe it's the same, quality. But what if it has Sukuna's cursed energy in it, and it's something not technically all of Yuji's.
I see, because Sukuna regenerates it, that it has part of him in it.
Yeah, maybe
it could be, because there is world building later, which we'll get to, where Gojo says that you can't use cursed techniques unless you're born with them etched into your body.
Oh, okay.
Everybody can use, some people can use cursed energy, some people can't, but cursed techniques have to be etched into your body at birth. But then he makes a comment in his head, because Yuji is disappointed because he wanted to do the spirit gun.
Yu Yu Hakusho. Shout out.
He wanted to do Bankai from Bleach. He wanted to do the Dodonpa from Dragon Ball. And he wanted to do the Rasengan from Naruto.
Yeah.
And Gojo sort of implies, like, you can't yet. I think that's his exact line. So going to your thing, not to jump too far ahead, there is a possibility that, because he says that eventually he will be able to use techniques because Sukuna is going to etch them into his body.
Right. Okay.
And so that's an interesting question. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
I took for granted it's anime. You can just regenerate shit. It's Piccolo growing an arm, or it's Bio Booster Armor Guyver regrowing Sho Fukumachi's brain after it gets ripped out by Enzyme 2 and stuff like that. That's a shout out to all the other granddads of anime who grew up with the Guyver.
Yeah, love Guyver.
Yeah, I mean, just I thought of it, but that's an interesting point.
It's like when he loses a part of himself and it gets regenerated, does he lose a little bit of Yuji's humanity or who he is, and it's more Sukuna? He could slowly be like a virus, just parasitic, taking over his whole body, not just in his imminent domain.
Right. And even too, because, the immediate thing he does after he rips the heart out is he eats the third finger. And then he says, now I can let loose. Yeah. I can do that. And I'm wondering if there was a thing where I said in the last episode where the more fingers he eats, does he become more in control of Yuji's body? Basically.
And I think we can probably say with about 50% confidence that is true.
Yeah. Here's a world building question that I have, though, that is confusing to me. So Sukuna had a defined intelligent personality within Yuji from finger 1.
Right.
Finger 1 eats it. He can talk. He's like, oh, these maggots crawling around, these children, these women crawling like maggots. I will eat and destroy them all. So he has a defined personality. We know that there are 20 fingers total.
Right.
We know that the unregistered special grade in the juvenile detention center had also consumed a ring. So what is the determinant factor for someone who consumes a ring, Sukuna's personality taking over that person?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, maybe because it was curses that wasn't a human, like a live human.
Right.
That just maybe just gave him more power. I mean, on the last episode, Cursed Womb Part 1, you could tell that he was more intelligent, but he still couldn't vocalize, right? He didn't have the ability to speak, really, or communicate in that way.
Oh, you mean the special grade?
Yeah, the special grade.
Yeah,
so maybe
he was. They do mention that he was intelligent, but
Right.
he didn't have communication the way Sukuna did.
Exactly. So I just, that's a great question. I just think that maybe these other curses that are drawn to the cursed object, the fingers, they swallow and they just they get bigger or more powerful or more, they have more cursed energy flowing through them as well.
So my second question then
in my opinion.
is like, okay, Yuji now has 3 fingers consumed. If there is another human that also consumes the same or more amount of fingers, does that person also have a completely autonomously defined Sukuna personality that can awaken within them?
Or are they linked to Yuji's Sukuna body?
Right. How does it work? I don't know. These are questions I have for later. It's a big mystery.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. And speaking of mysteries,
Yeah.
Megumi treats us to a little mystery right here.
Yes, he does.
There's a little thing where he sees gears turning and he says the only thing granted to all of humanity is an unfair existence.
Yeah.
And we see a dead woman with charms on her head.
Yeah.
And then it cuts back immediately and they begin fighting.
Yeah, so that's a great little point there too, because later on you do hear Yuji talking to Gojo about Megumi having just an overload of cursed spiritual energy. It was actually a funny bit, like a little comical bit.
Right.
And then I was like, so this guy has a lot of past trauma, a lot of history, definitely some deaths in the family, it seems like here.
Right.
That plays a factor. So I think, it's really nice to see these little the onion being peeled back a little bit for Megumi as well.
Right. If curses are the result of negative energy or something like that, it's like maybe everybody. We know that Nobara lost somebody. I don't think she died. I think she just moved to Tokyo,
Right.
or something. And it seems like Megumi has also lost somebody too.
Yeah.
So we don't know where it's going. And there.
I think it's his sister. I think it's his sister, right?
Okay.
I feel like it is, but I could be wrong.
Like an older sister that was also a caretaker
Yeah,
type of thing.
because he mentions, and I don't want to jump ahead of ourselves here, but he mentions in the episode, or there's like a flashback, or I think he mentions something about his, father not being proud or something or upset, and he was like,
not being present. Like I think his father gave him a girl's name and then just split before he even met him.
Well, no, that's it. No, I think he gave him the Megumi for the name because his older sister died, and he wanted to, he missed her, wanted another girl, kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe.
Okay.
I could be completely wrong here, guys.
They didn't say it. Wasn't said clear. It wasn't said clearly. So it's interesting. We both arrived at 2 different conclusions from that. I just thought it was an absentee father, but you're right. It might have been he had an older sister that died. But then again, it seems like whoever died is somebody that he was alive to know because he talks to her, or she says things to him all the time in his head. We see this young, beautiful woman who is alive, speaking words of encourage to him, basically.
God, so, we are such first years.
Yeah, we don't know shit. But there are layers being peeled back.
Yes.
So once this fight starts, this blew my mind. Like it's now we're in full Dragon Ball territory.
Yes, insane fight. When I break. Okay, so Megumi and Sukuna are fighting, and they are just talking trash. Sukuna's excited that they're out in the open. He's like, man, now I can actually unload and unleash.
Right.
And boy, does he, right?
Yeah.
On Megumi, who, to this point, by the way, I thought these Jujutsu sorcerers were pretty much purely human, right? With abilities. And I gotta assume they still are. But I'll tell you, if you take the licking that Megumi takes from Sukuna, you think these guys gotta be Dragon Ball level powered.
Megumi was taken out for over a week by the cursed spirit in episode 1. Just being slammed into the wall and being slammed through a wall. But what Sukuna does to him is 50 times crazier than that. Yeah.
Right. Tell us more.
Yeah, he's kicking him. into trees. He's kicking him into buildings.
He's flying
slamming his
through
head.
buildings, like literally 40 layers of cement and concrete, still alive. I don't know how it happens.
Megumi's using his shikigami, which his like shadow puppet, monsters that come to life. And Sukuna's kind of scrutinizing him in this interested way where he says, oh, you use shikigami instead of yourself. And it's like, instead of yourself, right. What does that mean? Like, maybe it means instead of your own cursed energy, or maybe cursed techniques because they're etched in your body. I don't know, but Sukuna is definitely a little bit like, okay, why is this guy only using this thing? He's only using, these things. He summons a snake named Orochi.
Yep.
It gets immediately destroyed. Sukuna just layer by layer takes the snake apart and then just commences with kicking Megumi's ass.
Some beautiful animation by Mappa. Round of applause for you guys because this is a cool fight scene. I mean, this 4-episode stretch actually has a couple of great ones, but
yeah, it's crazy. It was a Dragon Ball-esque battle. There's just so much, there's another little bit of a flashback after he gets his ass kicked. And where Megumi talks about how he wants to save people who are precious to him only. And it shows the beautiful young woman, and it shows a dead woman with the stuff on her head again. And so it's like, okay, this is somebody that he knew, either a sister or a mom or somebody. And he says something like, if anybody in life deserved happiness and to not be cursed, it was her.
Right.
And don't know what that means.
I think in the future we're gonna get some more information on that for sure.
Right. Yeah. And Sukuna says something to him too, where he's starting to recognize that Megumi, there's something about him. We're treated to this mystery, which we're going to get more into across 3 episodes of these 4, where there is something special about Megumi, where Sukuna says to him, why did you run back then? That's such a waste of talent, referring to when he ran away from the special grade,
right.
Assuming that he thought that maybe if he went all out, he could have done something. And Megumi is kind of powering up here. He's got a blue aura. He makes a little speech about how karma isn't fully automatic. Therefore, I choose to save people unequally.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then the fight just kind of dissipates from there. You see like a little hint of Yuji. I watched it again and I was like, I don't really know what was the trigger point for Sukuna to get out of it, go back, into Yuji's body. But he just kind of...
I think that Yuji... the first time I watched it, I thought that the speech that Megumi gives is what brings Yuji back.
Right.
But then the second time I noticed that he reacts and he powers down. He's powering up. He's getting ready to kick Sukuna's ass, and then he has this hint of recognition, and I think that is saying that he saw that Yuji was coming back.
Right.
Yuji got control, and so before Yuji dies, he wants to answer the question that Yuji asked him, why did you even save me? Yeah. And he said, I saved you selfishly. I saved you because I wanted to. And then Yuji is like, all right, live a long life, and just falls down
with a smile on his face. Touching moment from Yuji and Megumi there. And I was like, okay. I think this is going to be the start of a beautiful friendship.
Right. Between a living person and a dead person. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, who knows?
Yeah. And Megumi just completely unfazed by this death. And we get a little hint later that he's no stranger to partners dying. So... I mean, it was a crazy fight, though. I mean, I can't overstate Mappa's animation for this fight. I don't know who the people are who are working on it. I don't know who the animators who work at Mappa are, but man,
gorgeous work.
For an episode 5 fight, this was top tier.
Yeah, top notch, guys.
Pretty incredible. And then we get a scenario change. So we jump to the crosswalk.
Wait. Which crosswalk? Who's there?
We jump to the crosswalk where we see 3 curses.
Oh, yes.
And a guy with a Frankenstein scar on his head crossing, and they give us a little bit more world building.
Yeah, so this is the first time we meet these characters, right? We have Gojo, who is the cycloptic...
Jogo.
Okay,
that's what's confusing, is that we have Gojo and we have Jogo.
Yeah, Gojo is obviously the teacher.
Right.
With the blindfold on. Jogo is the cycloptic Mount Fuji looking volcano head man.
Right.
Lava powered. And then we have
Geto,
Sigura, who seems to be some sort of human or was human or something like that.
I think he's human, yeah. And then we have Hanami, who speaks in reverse.
Yeah, which I didn't even get because I watched it in English dub on Crunchyroll, by the way. Important to note that they didn't any of the subtitles in the show, they didn't give us subtitles for what was happening on screen. So there's like 3 or 4 times in these episodes where they had some important information on the screen that I did not
with
get.
no narration.
No narration, no subtitle. I'm like, well, I was watching with my girlfriend. I was like, well, babe, I think it's supposed to tell us what it says because it's it's in English dub. It should be subtitled at least for this part, which we can just see the kanji. But for us, it wasn't. So now I got to rewatch it in Japanese, which is fine with me.
Yeah, that's super weird because even if it's in English, if a thing is speaking backwards, you can put in the subtitled version. They just put what he said backwards on the screen. So you pause it and you read, oh, okay, that's what he said, or whatever. You could do that for the English too. If it's speaking backwards, you don't just keep English speakers completely in the dark. That's insane.
Yes. So my initial impression of Hanami was just a guy who mumbles because I didn't even know he was saying anything. So you had those 3 guys, right? Was there
a squid
in the squid?
There's like a red squid or octopus type guy. Thing, and they're talking about basically what we learn is that they engineered the detention facility incident. Right. Basically, they fed a finger of Skuna to this thing. They made it a special grade because they wanted to test Skuna's power, specifically through the vessel of Yuji. So. Yeah. And there's something that's said about I don't know if it's here. I don't think it's here. No, I think it comes later. So never mind.
Well, they have a really interesting, terrifying scene in the restaurant where they're sitting down, and one of these servers can see the curses, or he can see the black cloud.
Well, that comes later. Right now, like we see these 4 things walk in. The hostess is like, how many? And he's like, oh, a seat for 1. Right. So in that one sentence, all the subtext we need, boom, he's the human.
Right.
They're the curses. No one can see them. And then we cut to Ikiji and Gojo at a morgue where Yuji is laid out on a table. And Gojo is making some hot take thesis statements about the world.
Gojo does not like his elders that are Jujutsu sorcerers. That's for damn sure. He's like, out with the new crowd, in with the new, out with the old, in with the new. I'm done with these people. He's like, I might as well pretty much kill him myself. So, so you realize right then and there's a lot of hostility, especially to the elders here, which we talked about this in Japanese culture that, respecting your elders is quite possibly on the upper tier of basic respect. And to hear Gojo, who's actually one of the most respected active sorcerers right now, that says a lot about his thoughts and ideas on the old school Jujutsu sorcerers.
Well, it seems like within any enclosed system, there is corruption. He says, I had to strongly advocate to indefinitely suspend the execution of Yuji. And so what they did is they sent me on a mission, and then they sent Yuji off to die, basically.
They sent three first years off to somewhere where they knew there was a special grade curse inside.
Right.
Which they're not, technically they're not even supposed to fight special grades curses at all at this point.
Right. Because they wanted Skuna dead. They wanted Yuji dead. But then he also said, and if Nobara and Megumi had died too, it would have just been icing on the cake. Right. They would have had more of a case against me because my students died. And then like you said, he's like, maybe I should just kill all of them.
Yeah. And I was like, whoa, that's brutal.
Yeah.
But it's I can't blame Gojo here because I'm like, dude, you guys are going behind my back, probably the best teacher they have. And the teachers are trying to get them all killed. And
also, it's been established that there's a shortage of sorcerers in this world. I mean, there are only 3 first years, including Yuji, who's like day 6 as a sorcerer. And Nobara, who's maybe had a little bit of experience. She can use, curse energy and tools and stuff like that. We've seen Megumi's definitely the most experienced. But yeah, if there's a shortage and also it seems like there's a burgeoning problem of curses.
Right. And they know that curses are getting more prevalent and they're getting stronger and they're getting smarter. So it's like you'd think they'd be trying to recruit out the ass,
Yeah, no, but they were willing to sacrifice these 3 people just to kind of make Gojo look bad.
Right.
And also because they were afraid. Because that's the other thing he keeps saying, oh, they're afraid. They're too afraid. Blah, blah, blah. So he says that. And then a woman walks in, Ieri, who is a mortician, I suppose, who kind of comments, oh, that's not like you to be so emotional. Gojo has a funny comment where he's like, what? I've always been the nice guy who cares about his students or whatever. And then she just says, "Oh, do you mind if I take your student apart then?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, get good use out of him."
Right.
So
like,
that's
"Ooh,
the scene.
brutal."
You're like, "Oh my goodness."
And she actually kind of reminds me of Ritsuko from Evangelion, Akagi.
That cold
professional computer analyst with the blonde hair, and she, works on the Magi system. If you watch Evangelion, she totally reminds me of Ritsuko. Her energy, her demeanor, just straight to business. So that could have been a little bit inspiration there for that character.
Maybe. We know that the author, he said his ultimate inspiration was Evangelion. Yeah. So I still think that things. Anybody who says that, I don't blame them at all. Evangelion is incredible. So if you kids haven't watched it, go watch it and get scarred for life. Yeah. No one comes out of that show unscathed.
Exactly.
So
you can learn about the meaning of life all in one.
Right.
So
you'll learn a little bit about yourself. You know, you'll see all the ways that you're petty, all the ways that you give up on things when you tell yourself that you don't, and all the times that you triumph when you thought that you didn't triumph. Yeah. It's a very uncomfortable experience watching Evangelion. There are mega fans. I think you're one of them who rewatch it once a year.
Every year.
I need to wait like 5 years in between watches because I just want to curl up in a fetal position every time End of Evangelion ends. Yeah. I'm just like, oh man, I just feel so violated. Like it's so good.
Brilliant.
But that's what's brilliant about it is it's a piece of art that can make you feel so strongly.
Yeah. So if that wasn't inspiration for this show, then you know what? I think we're going to be in really good hands going forward. I
think that we're in for some uncomfortable times.
We are. Let's do it.
So we cut to Megumi and Nobara. Right. They're sitting at a shrine. They're having a casual conversation about the fact that their third member of their team just died.
Yep.
And Nobara is like, "Is this your first time?" Megumi's like, "This is my first time with somebody my own age."
Right.
And he asks her, kind of, "Are you sad?" And she's like, "No, I'm not the type to cry over some dude I've only known 6 days."
Or like 2 weeks. Yeah. Like that. She's like,
and then she just immediately starts crying.
And then like 1 second later, she starts crying. And Megumi gives this really it's a really awkward kind of look, like, okay, well, I guess you were. And then, in that moment, you could see, even though he didn't cry like she did, you could tell that it's affecting him as well.
And he lets her save face a little bit too. Yeah. He just kind of goes, it's hot, isn't it?
Yeah.
She's like,
change the subject, uncomfortable.
Right. I don't notice that you're crying or whatever. And then we meet 3 new people. We meet Zen and Maki, who is hinted at in the first episode where Megumi watched Yuji do the shot put and said, "Wow, he did that without any cursed energy. I wonder if he's like Zenin." He was referring to Zen and Maki, who also cannot use she can't put cursed energy into objects, much like Yuji. So, I guess Yuji's getting there now. There's a lot to peel back,
tons.
But she's introduced as this expert in all cursed object things because she can't put her own energy in objects. She can wield weapons similar to the knife that was given to Yuji in episode 4.
Right.
Episode 3.
3. One or the other.
And so we meet her. She's a firecracker. She's coming out the gate hot. Just like, why are you guys sitting around moping and crying? You guys are idiots. And then behind her,
a panda is like, hey.
A panda's just like, hey, you don't know what happened to them.
Don't you know what happened there? One of the first years just died. And it seemed like quite a dick there, Maki. And she's like, oh my God.
Yeah, she freaks out because she sounds like an idiot. There's a third person there with a mask over his face who we come to know his name is Inugaki. Is that correct? Inumaki. Sorry. Inumaki, who only speaks in he has a cursed speech. So he hides his face and he only speaks in ingredients to rice balls.
Rice balls, which is pretty cool. I'm like, man, there are times. I mean, I guess later on we will see him say an actual word, couple words. But
that moment was pretty cool.
Pretty cool moment. But I will tell you this is that you kind of gotta wonder, like, wow, I wonder what blowfish means in this situation. And I want salmon. I want to know what brown rice means, because he says all this stuff and like it's just more of a tag on. But
yeah, it's like if you can only speak in those terms, why say anything at all?
But my biggest question when meeting these 3 people, and they're all interesting characters, and I can't wait to get to know them more. Which we just scraped the surface. Is that who the hell is this panda? Is it a cursed object, or is it it has human fingers? I'm like, it has 5 digits like a human. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
Okay, so
shit's crazy.
I feel like that's the bit. is that Panda is just not explained. And I really hope that Panda is never explained. Because even when Megumi is introducing everybody, it's like, yeah, that's Zen and Maki. She's the #1 user of cursed tools. That's Inumaki. He has cursed speech, and that's Panda. And just moves on. And Noburu's like, "Wait, you're not gonna say more about the panda named Panda?"
Right. Yes. So she kind of broke the fourth wall in that moment for us.
Right.
But it was a great moment too. But maybe it's just like the game Tekken. If you guys play Tekken, there's Panda and there's a bear or whatever. Right. So it's like, I was like, you know what? Maybe it's just a cool character to have.
Is that King, or is King the jaguar headed?
King is the guy who wears the jaguar head.
Oh, okay.
But there is I think there's there's Panda.
I forget what the panda's name is. Yeah, but yeah, totally. I mean, it's a funny bit. It was funny too because my girlfriend thinks I know more than I do about this show. So in the intro, we saw Panda kind of doing some parkour on the roofs.
Right.
And she was like, "Wait, who's that panda?" And I just I did the same thing because I thought it was funny. I was like, "Oh, he's Panda." Yeah. And then just move on. And she's like, "Wait, that's not an explanation. Why is there a panda running on the roofs?" And
I was like, "That's about as much as we know."
And I hope that Panda is never explained. But he's very articulate. He's a very nice senpai. He's very facilitative and encouraging to his kohai
and the first years as well.
So. Right. So he says to them too. We get treated to this thing where he's saying, listen, there is a exchange event between the Kyoto Jiu-Jitsu School and the Tokyo Jiu-Jitsu School. And normally it's second and third years who are allowed to do it. But because Okotsu who is overseas, so he can't do it. So we're constantly told about this Okotsu guy who's apparently a badass. So we don't know. He can't do it. So why don't you guys do it in his stead? And we'll train you guys up for it. And they explain the rules a little bit. They say that generally the principals come together and they agree what kind of competition it is. But what it normally comes down to is a team battle and then individual battles after.
Yeah. So they keep laying the foundation for this. I think in 2 more episodes, it says like a month and a half. So, I mean, time is going by in these episodes as well.
Right.
But we will learn, that, I'm excited to see this inter-school battle. But we'll get to that in the next couple episodes when we talk about
so many shonen tropes just being thrown at us. It's like demon analogs, right? It's like there are demons, there are, special abilities, and now there's a school festival / tournament.
Yeah, which is always cool to see. Like My Hero Academia. I mean, all the great animes have like inter-school fights, rivalry, stuff like that.
Totally.
And we definitely get some shit talking later on that plays a factor into us wanting to see Tokyo Jujutsu High kick some ass.
Right. So that's the end of that. We jump back to the cafe where we're actually getting a little bit more where Geto asks Jogo, so your boss wants to reverse the roles of humans and curses, right? And he goes, yeah, because humans, they do nice things, but they're insincere. Like there's always an ulterior motive. So humans are basically liars, but because
cursed energy, we are made out of pure emotion, like hatred or grief or anger. He's like, we feel like we are more honest and who we are and shouldn't be treated as cursed. We should be the ones leading and not these humans who hide behind every emotion. Every one of their positive emotions is usually for them, created off a negative emotion. So I was like, that's an interesting point.
It's an interesting philosophy. And anime is full of that.
Tons of it.
Characters that just have interesting, defined philosophies.
Demon Slayer, My Hero Academia, all the biggest shonen animes, manga, same deal.
Yeah.
Naruto. Yeah.
So then Geto tells him, well, if you want to win this war that your boss supposedly wants to wage, you need to meet 2 conditions. You have to render Gojo Satoru unable to fight.
Pretty much dead.
Yeah. And you have to convert Sukuna and Yuji to your cause.
Yeah.
And he's like, wait, but isn't he dead?
Right.
And Geto's like, and for some reason, Geto knows that he's not. He says no. And then we zoom in on the big hole in Yuji's chest and we see Yuji standing before a throne of bones, I think, and Sukuna. There's so many similar names in the show. Sukuna is sitting at the top, and that's the end of episode 5, Curse Room Part 2.
Yeah.
And then episode 6, After Rain, starting right where we leave off. Yuji challenges Sukuna to a fight. there's kind of some funny banter where Sukuna's like, "Why are you pissed, bro?" He's like, "Cause you ripped my heart out." He's like, "Yeah, but I healed your arm."
Yeah, and then Sukuna's mad. He's like, "Don't you come into my don't you get dirt on my doorstep in my domain now?"
Right.
He's like, "This is still my body, asshole." So there is a little back and forth, a classic kind of battle between inner battle there between Sukuna and Yuji.
And it's pretty cool. It's a beautifully animated fight. It's awesome. But ultimately, it comes down to Sukuna kind of confesses, so we get more of this thing about Megumi. He's like, when he saw Megumi's power, now he's like, actually, I do want to keep you alive because I want to stay in your body. I want to do it. So let's make a pact. The pact is every time I say extension, I get to take control of your body for a full minute.
1 minute.
And 2, you don't remember that we made this pact.
Right. And then, Yuji says, of course, over my dead body. No, he didn't say that. But, essentially
he agrees at first, and then he stands up and punches him in the face.
Punches him in the face. He says, no, screw that. And then you know what? I'll be honest with you, man. They renegotiate the terms of the pact, right?
Yeah, Sukuna adds terms. He's like, how about if I agree that I can't hurt or kill anybody?
For that minute.
Right. And then some world building was like, no, like a pact, I can't break it. It's like in Hunter x Hunter, the pact that Kurapika makes with his cursed chains, where he has to make a pact for himself that if he breaks it, it will kill him. But if the other person breaks it, it will kill the other person too. Kind of that sort of deal.
So I think those are pretty good terms in general, but it also got the wheels turning here. Like what is Sukuna hiding about this that we didn't get, or what's
right?
There's got to be some fine print that we do not understand here that Sukuna's gonna play.
It seems too good to be true.
Yeah, when he says what, he's like, I'm only gonna be there for 1 minute. He's like, and then I'm not allowed to hurt or kill anyone. Right.
Right. Yeah.
I was like, that's pretty great terms to come back to life. I was like, I think I'd have to give that in a heartbeat.
Right. And Yuji just kind of is like, dude, all this is your fault. Just heal my heart for free.
And he says no. And he says, well, then we're going to have to fight to the death for this, basically.
He's like, how about this? Let's fight to the death. If you win, I'll heal your heart, no conditions. If I win, we do my thing. And Yuji's like, yeah, let's do it. And then just immediately gets his head cut off.
So another great comedic moment, and that's Jujutsu Kaisen is full of these, by the way. It'll go from like deathly serious into a really, really funny moment of levity when you see Yuji's like head get sliced in half. I was like, wow. Right. Still funny moment, but like really serious at the same time. Right.
And it kind of immediately cuts to him waking up, though we don't see it, but we hear Gojo. He's still in the room with Ikiji and Ieri, I think her name is. And he's talking more about his philosophy. He's like, there are a lot of strong sorcerers coming up in this school, and the old generation sucks. I want them all dead. I want to rebuild the Jujutsu world from the bottom up.
Yeah.
Basically. And
then Yuji rises,
Yeah, Yuji just wakes up.
Yeah, and they're basically like, oh, welcome back. Yeah. Like Gojo almost knew it was going to happen in a way, I think. It seems...
They do like a little high five, or it's like, oh, welcome back.
He comes over, he's sitting naked on the table, and then the mortician lady, she's like looking like, oh, well, darn it, now I don't get to cut into anymore. And and Yuji's like, oh, well, sorry, you don't get to, cut me up. But
I love all the little side bits too, where she brings him a blanket and she's just saying like, yeah, please put this on, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if that translates in the dub as well as reading it in the manga or reading it in the subtitles. But
he's back. Yuji's back amongst the living.
He's back, and
heartless, maybe, I don't know.
We get a little bit of Gojo's plan. He's walking with Ieri, talking with her, and he's like, I'm gonna keep Yuji hidden for a month. Yeah. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach him the basics of jujitsu, and then I'm going to send him on special missions to kind of cut his teeth a little bit, and then he's going to debut at the youth event, because youth events are for the young.
Yeah, so do not change those death records. We want him to be on the down low for now.
Right. Yeah, and so then we cut back to the cafe. This horrific scene where we have this funny dude who's like, I've always been very responsible. I've worked multiple jobs to put my 4 sisters through college, but I know that if I walk over to that table, I'm going to die.
Yeah. So he sees these, 3 spirits or 3 floating black globs apparitions. So he's like, oh my God, I can sense curse energy. His anxiety's going through the roof. You can see it in his forehead, it wrinkles. He's like, no, I'm not going over there. He goes up to his manager. He's like, I'm so sorry, I quit. And he just runs out the door. Smartest guy ever.
It's hilarious. I guess he would be a window, right? They say in episode 4, people that can see the energy but can't see curses or windows.
Exactly.
Or whatever. So he runs away. Smart move. Conversation back at the table where Jogo's like, how about I just kill Gojo? Jogo wants to kill Gojo. This is going to be very confusing, especially in the next episode. And Geto's like, I don't really think you can. I think it's better if you seal him. And he has a cursed object called the something prison. Which
is very much like the Hellraiser cube.
Right. But Jogo's more interested in just trying to kill him. It's like, I think I can get this guy. And he starts popping off some heat out of his head.
See this really creepy shot, little animation of him going, yes, all right, I'll just try to kill him. Really cool moment there.
Meanwhile, like the main manager of this place is getting pissed off because this guy has been sitting there for 30 minutes not ordering anything. So he's like, all right, he walks over, like, excuse me, if you made up your mind, just immediately bursts into flames.
And then the other host or waitress, she sees that and she's like, ah! And then she goes into flames and literally the whole place goes up in flames. Right. All these bodies, living bodies just flying down, dropping dead in flames. It was like, wow, this shit is crazy.
I love the exchange too, where Geto's like, hey, could you not do that when the first guy bursts into flames? And he's like, oh, this is nothing. And just everybody just starts bursting into flames.
Shows you that this guy is powerful and he is not afraid to kill.
And as this is happening, Jogo asks Geto, in terms of Sukuna's fingers, how strong am I? And Geto estimates...
He says 7 fingers.
He says 8 or 9.
8 or 9, sorry.
Yeah. No worries. Yeah, it's like about 8 or 9. So that's pretty crazy because we've seen how strong 3 fingers are.
Right. And also, this is also an important moment here. Just to go back to the flame moment when everyone is just combusted in the flames. It's important to note that before Jogo does this, you don't really know if these are bad guys or good guys or in the middle somewhere. They talk about it, but you don't really know. And so that like really said, okay, Jogo is a bad guy. Because I had no idea. Because he talked like a normal human. He was making jokes himself. He had some moments of levity when he was talking to the table. Right. Like, okay, maybe he's one of those guys who's on the fence or an independent, or not really part of, just, I'm an evil curse or something like that.
I thought he was for sure evil, but I didn't know he was going to be this malevolent where he was just going to torch every human. Yeah. And there's that horrific thing where the one waitress is crawling towards the door, and then he, like, right as she opens the door, he just bursts in the flames. I mean, it was a horrific scene.
I guess you can see that, but at the same time, I automatically have to compare it with like a Demon Slayer or other shows like that where they have like a tortured history. So you think like there's things that you can relate to from a human being perspective that make them a little more amicable or a little more likable as characters. And then when you see Jogo do his thing, you realize, okay, this guy's a savage.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty messed up. It was pretty messed up. And then we just get a few little vignettes. We get Megumi giving Tadashi's name badge to his mom.
Right.
And
touching moment.
Yeah, we see Nobara training with Panda in a really weird way.
Training, getting swung around.
Yeah, just being swung around in a circle and being thrown. And Panda's like, oh, we're doing falling training. Megumi asks Maki, like, what kind of people do you want to save? She's like, I don't care. Yeah. Anybody. It's fine. I'm indiscriminate. And then we see Gojo is going to teach Yuji the bare minimum of jujitsu using a very special training method, which is like watching movies.
One of my personal favorite methods. Is
It's the best training method of all.
And they're going to watch everything from sea-level horror movies to cheesy romance movies to action adventures to even Lord of the Rings later on.
Yeah, he has like award-winning movies, C-tier action movies, and even terrible French movies. Yeah. I'm like, what is he talking? Like, I don't know a ton about French cinema. I grew up more watching Hong Kong cinema and stuff like that. So is French cinema known for just sucking? I mean...
all I know it's known for being sexy.
Oh, yeah. Blue is the warmest color.
Yeah. French is definitely, they do their own thing. So I don't hate it, but it's different. And the important part of that moment was that he had another one of those cursed puppets to where, his training is that he has to have... through all times, cursed energy flowing. So he needs to learn how to control it. Right. So he has to have control the cursed energy because he was able to make it in episode 4 or 5, the Cursed Wound Part 2 or Part 1, where he does punch that demon or that curse.
Oh, in 4, yeah. So he's able to put curse energy in his hand. Punch. Yeah.
So now his goal here is to keep a constant flow, like electrical current of curse energy going into this doll to stop him from attacking. But if he loses that, he loses his focus, then that that doll punches him in the face and knocks him hard.
Just wakes up and punches him.
Yeah.
We get more of the world building too, where Gojo puts 2 cans out. One of them just gets smashed. The other gets twisted.
Right.
And it's like, okay, the one that got smashed, that's curse energy. The one that got twisted, that's curse technique. And then there's a funny little shot where Yuji's like, awesome, I don't get it. It kind of has like a JoJo's design or something. And then basically Gojo's like, think of energy as electricity and think of technique as an appliance.
Right.
Basically. And then gives him the whole thing. We already touched on it earlier.
Right.
It's like, but you can't use any techniques. And Yuji starts melting into a white ghost. And
That's hilarious. Yeah. Great moment. It's like, no. And I can't do all the special techniques that he referenced from all the other classic animes.
Right. But he can't yet.
Yet.
And he even says on the phone, like, I want to do a Kamehameha. He just wants to do it so bad. So yeah, he has to watch these movies. He has to keep a constant stream of curse energy into this bear to prevent it from waking up and punching him. And or he also, oh yeah, that's right. Gojo tells him to punch him. He's like, try to do that thing that you did to the special grade against me. Mm-hmm. Tries to do it, can't do it. And he's like, oh, that's because, you have to use negative energy.
Right.
That's what curse energy is based on. And then there's a funny moment where he's like, actually, Megumi is like pretty snappy all the time. So maybe if I just flip out all the time, I can use energy.
And he does the whole demon dog. He makes a little emoji kind of.
He's like pissed off. He's like, demon
mean,
dog.
Yeah, this show's funny as hell, man. This show has so many great moments in there, and it's pretty damn funny. I'm really starting to enjoy it. My girlfriend loves laughing to it too. So it's really good to have these moments of levity before it gets really dark and twisted.
It's a good balance. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of good bits, and then there's a lot of like, oh my god, this is horrific. Yeah. what's even happening? So anyway, so that table is set. We don't need to go too much further into that. He's going to have to do this training for a while. I think that this is similar, if I can make a comparison to Dragon Ball Z, which is our other sort of, flagship thing that we cover on this show. It's sort of like when Goku tells Gohan in the Room of Spirit and Time, let's stop training. Let's just try to maintain Super Saiyan for like 2 weeks.
Exactly. Yeah. Similar situation. Great reference point there too.
Yeah. So we jump over. One last point about the movies. Mm-hmm. The first movie that Gojo puts on is he's like, here, let's start with this one. The heroine is super annoying, but she dies spectacularly. Right. Yeah. And you just like, spoilers.
Like, spoiler? Why'd you spoil it for me? It's just it's a great, funny scene. Yeah.
So there's conversations about, Maki actually Panda carries Maki's weapons for her because they're too heavy. Yep. They're cursed and stuff like that. He's offered a weapon, but he doesn't want to use it because for his Shikigami and all of his stuff, he needs the use of his hands.
Yeah, he needs to keep his hands open and available. But just little things there.
Right.
All just like, a little bit of like little insight, but nothing too spectacular.
And Megumi's starting to think that what Sukuna said to him about how he was a waste of talent because he ran, he's like, maybe I am a little special.
Yeah. And then what happened? What happens there when he puts his hand like in the concrete?
Yeah, his fingers just melt into the concrete.
You noticed that, right?
Yeah. I was like, I have no idea.
Yeah, like what the hell is that? Is that some kind of special ability that we don't know yet? Does he even know about that? Because they don't really reference it. They look over at him like, oh, that's weird. But not like you don't really. They kind of cut right after that, actually.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so we're like, okay, we don't even know what this guy's abilities are because he's using. The Shikigami are basically like weapons that he's making out of shadows, but we don't know what his actual abilities are yet. And they're teasing us. We don't know.
He just put his hand down through concrete when he was thinking about, talking about getting deep, right? He was thinking about, death and I think Yuji or something like that. And then he does that. And it's like, okay, so add that to our wall back here of the crazy theories and stuff we don't know about. But I think we're going to get a little more insight in the future.
We don't know.
The list is growing every 5 minutes on this show about what the hell is going on.
Right. And the only thing we know about Novara so far is that she's like image conscious and obsessed. Like she cares about clothing,
tracksuits.
Yeah, she wants to be discovered by Star Search or whatever. And so we get just a little bit of that where she is maybe in Harajuku and she's looking around going like, where's Urahara? Where's Urahara? Looking for something while she's carrying a bunch of grocery bags. So we Yuji's watching a movie where a bomb is being defused. I don't know if this is a reference to an actual movie. I don't think so.
I mean, it's just one of those common, you've seen that in a million movies. It's like, oh no, don't cut the red wire.
Right, or
but the blue could be the wire to use. That was recyclable or something like that.
Yeah, it's like recyclables versus red, which are the burnable trash.
Yeah.
I think it should be red or whatever. And he's watching, and then the bear wakes up, punches him in the face, and then we see the end of this episode, which leads into episode 7.
Crazy.
Is Ikiji is driving Gojo to a meeting with Principal. I forget his name. I'm gonna remember it later. I'm gonna remember it's like Asa or something. I'm gonna remember it later.
Yeah.
Because I wrote it down.
The principal.
He's driving him to a meeting. He's like, "Do you want to stop anywhere before we go there?" And he's like, "Nah, I just want to get this over with." And then he's just like, "Stop the car."
Wait. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell?
Stop the car. He's like, "Yeah, go on without me."
Yeah.
Ikiji's like, "Are you testing me? Like, are you gonna beat me up if I do this?" He's like, "Who do you think I am, guy?"
This guy's he's annoying sometimes. He's sweet, but he's annoying.
Yeah.
The middleman guy, the worker dude.
He's very nebbish. He's the punching bag of Jujutsu High for sure. And then Jogo comes flying out of the sky, punches the ground with this huge smash.
Volcano kind of like it turns to lava basically.
Right. And Gojo's just like, "Who are you?"
Great setup for the next episode. I love that about Jujutsu Kaisen. They always leave it on a great tag. It sucks for us because we're not binging it.
Right.
So it's like, and sometimes we don't get to shoot an episode. We get we have to go like a week sometimes before we get to shoot another one, which means, we try to watch it fresh.
Right.
So it's like, I was like, dude, I want to binge more. But, luckily we got to watch the next episode this time.
If left to my own devices, I feel like I'd be halfway through the season right now.
I would be done.
Oh, yeah.
Me and Angie would knock out like all 23.
Yeah.
In the next like 4 days.
Definitely, I'm just like, it begs you to keep going.
Yeah.
It begs you to keep going. I forgot to mention in the last episode, we have these funny little vignettes, the Juju strolls at the end. And there was a debate about whether or not Panda smelled bad.
Yeah.
And then Megumi smells him and says, "Oh, he smells like the sun."
Sunshine.
Which to me, that was such a visceral thing because it's like you smell an animal's head that's been in the sun. And it does have a specific thing that you associate with the sun for some reason. It's like, oh, okay, I can get behind that. And this one, it was Gojo's Gojo. just crazy,
Random
silly
as hell,
fun.
really fun. They do it in a lot of animes. I really can't even think off the top of my head.
I don't even remember what it was. I just remember laughing at the name Gojo's Gojo or Gojo's Gojo. Gojo. I guess Gojo might mean something else too. It's a fun time, but then we go right into episode 7, Assault. Yes. My favorite episode so far.
Great episode.
Jogo makes a volcano come out of the side of the highway and just blast
Gojo.
Which has no effect. It's that classic anime thing where the lava fades. He's fine.
Jogo's like, "Oh, I think that was a lot easier than I expected." And Jogo is like, "What do you mean easy?" He's like, "I didn't even touch me." He's like, "What?"
Right. And Gojo is perplexed for 2 reasons. One, this is a very intelligent curse.
Right.
And also, it's unregistered.
Unregistered.
Yeah, so it's an unregistered special curse. And so they fight a little bit. They're talking. He's taunting him. Jogo sends out these little bugs that use like a sound and blast technique.
Yes, sound and movement.
Right.
To try to like a double technique to, I guess, get to Gojo, and it has no effect. Obviously, Gojo is a badass. This is when we realize that Gojo is like the freaking man.
Well, this is definitely a measuring stick as to how strong he really is. Because if Jogo truly is 8 or 9 of Sukuna's fingers, we've already seen how powerful 3 fingers are. And right now, Gojo is just making total sport of this curse. Like literally it's nothing.
Making fun of him, mocking him, having fun. He even challenges him. Well, you'll say it in a second here what happens with the...
Well, oh yeah, so he dodges the bugs, but then Jogo actually anticipated that.
Yeah.
Blows his head up with fire and then hits him, and just like this giant volcanic blast hits him, and he's like, "Oh, well, that was easy.
Yep.
I got him." And starts to walk away, but then Gojo is still alive. And he's like, "Wait a minute." Now Jogo's a little bit perplexed. And I know this sounds like a crazy person talking. It's Gojo.
Yeah.
But Jogo is perplexed. Like, wait a minute. No, I definitely hit you. Yeah. And Gojo says, "No, what you hit was the infinity that exists between us."
And you're like, what the hell? Another thing I have to learn for this show?
Yeah.
The infinity? So basically, long quick breakdown for Infinity. I can just kind of explain it. At least the Infinity between us. I don't know if Jogo alone controls Infinity.
Gojo.
Sorry. My God.
That's how it is.
Gojo. If Gojo is the only one that controls Infinity, but maybe he doesn't, maybe he does. But I will explain it this way: is that basically it doesn't. He felt Jogo, the volcano eye bad guy, the curse. He felt the punches on Gojo. He thought he punched Gojo, assaulted him, and got the work done. And like, I felt killing you. He's like, no. He's like, you didn't. He's like, this Infinity, if you're watching on YouTube, you can kind of see. He's like, it's still there. He's like, there's a matter, but it's very slow. So he's like, try touching my hand. He's like, see this? He's like, I can't touch it. So Jogo tries to touch it and he can't even touch it. And he's like, no, keep waiting, go slow. And then he kind of, Jogo taunts him into like a, even like a romantic kind of like, oh yeah.
It's like, I could even hold your hand with this. Because even with their fingers touching, he can put Infinity between them.
So it's just like in Evangelion, it's very similar to like an AT field, which is that energy that a body gives off that separates you from another person. And person's existence. So in a way, that's what it is. So it's also like, or even like Dune. Like Dune, if you watch the film Dune,
the shields,
shields, the swords, how they have the shields protect the body from the sword, but it doesn't really stop it. It just really slows it, and the vibrations eventually get to you.
You have to go slowly to penetrate it. Yeah, if you hit fast, you won't.
So that's a
penetrate
great example of how that kind of worked.
Yeah, and to your point, I think that Gojo might be in. We didn't know this. It wasn't really clear to us, but it's like, okay, there are different specialty sorcerer techniques. Maybe Gojo's is Infinity.
Right.
He is the master of Infinity. He's the Infinity sorcerer. And I love that whole little bit where he's like, here, hold my hand.
Yeah, that was
cute.
It's
like, ora in Japanese, and then
Gojo's so dreamy, guys.
I mean, he gets dreamy in this episode for sure when he takes that mask off. Yeah,
like almost like Sailor Moon or something.
So then he like after he like holds Jogo's hands and he's like, oh, you're making me shy. He just starts beating the shit out of him.
Just beats the crap out of him.
Yeah, just slamming him through the forest, just laughing.
Beautiful animation, Mappa, way to go.
It's crazy. It's so good. Yeah.
And we'll have it on the back here. We'll have this whole scene playing in the background, maybe even slow motion, so you can see all the details. But there is just some amazing work going on there, blowing up through the trees, getting knocked into a big lake, pools, blown up, explosions in the air with the volcano head. It's just great stuff. I need to dig into who these animators are, because every episode has had a sequence like this. I'm like, man, like what was the budget and schedule like for this show? Yeah, how long exactly? That shit's got to take forever.
I have like a dreading feeling that I'm gonna find out that everyone was underpaid and the schedule sucked or something like that.
It's a running theme.
But I mean, to the animators, kudos, like just amazing work.
Great work, Mappa.
Gojo explains Infinity a little bit more, and then Yuji appears.
Yes, and you're like, how the hell did Yuji appear? And then he explains that he teleported him there.
Yeah, because he can just travel through Infinity to any place. He sees he's watching movies. He's watching Lord of the Rings, actually.
Lord of the Rings, hilarious.
Yeah, the end of the Fellowship where Sam and Frodo, are in the boat and they hug and stuff like that. And
even the little Lord of the Rings scene was like a beautifully animated shot.
Oh, yeah.
It was maybe like 10, 20 frames or something like that, but it was like gorgeous. You're like, oh my God.
The models in it were really
they're
pristine.
Photo accurate almost. It's pretty good.
Yeah. So in the meantime, Jogo too says, I don't care if I can't hit him. I'll be able to once I get him in my domain.
Exactly. So this is more excitement here because now we get to find out a little bit more about this imminent domain, right?
This innate domain, and also, too, when Gojo grabs Yuji... No, it's fine. I keep saying imminent, too. It's like imminent domain, the ability for the government to just take
your land.
Yeah, take your land, yeah.
Well, in a way, they do take their space,
Yeah. So it's like no sooner did Jogo say, I just need to get him in my domain and I'm good... Gojo goes and grabs Yuji and goes, hey, I'm going to take you with me. You're just going to watch. It's a lesson on innate domain.
So this is just a great example of, this is like exposition at its best. The next episode, we have exposition probably at its worst and a couple of things. But this one is fantastic because this tells us so much we need to know about what an intermittent domain is, how it works, how Jujutsu sorcerers can use it. You're probably going to go into a little more detail here, but how you can get in and out of the situation and in the levels of power in intimate domains.
Right. Yeah. We did see earlier, and it's mentioned that there was a domain that was set up by the unregistered special grade at the juvenile detention facility,
but it wasn't complete.
It wasn't complete because it wasn't imbued with curse techniques.
Right.
Which there are two rules. Well, first we should say that Jogo creates an innate domain that's just like this magma hellscape, basically. Like it's just surrounded in magma, and he's a little surprised because he's like, normally if a person just enters here, they're ashes.
Yeah.
But Gojo and Yuji are fine.
They're fine.
And Gojo's just explaining to him, he's explaining to Yuji, okay, this is a domain, basically like it's imbued with curses, and there are two facets of it. The domain itself can upgrade the power of a technique,
right?
Similar to an RPG, they make that reference. And then also, too, anytime a technique is used in a domain, it will always hit.
Exactly.
Yeah. And, it's done in kind of a funny way. Like I don't know if it was funny in English, but in Japanese, like it's like always something like the way he says it. It was super funny. Jogo's trying to kill them,
right?
And but then Gojo drops the bomb when it's like, oh, but there is one way in which you can't escape a domain. That might be your inclination. You can't escape a domain, but if two domains are cast simultaneously, the stronger one will prevail.
Will take over.
And then he lifts his mask off, crosses his fingers.
And his little beautiful blue eyes, searing blue eyes.
He's like a boy band guy.
Boy band.
He's like infinite void. And then just all the magma
does this thing, which you all know if you watch the show, crosses his index and middle finger.
Right. Yeah. Does a little mudra, if you will. Move. And then just boom, all of a sudden, Jogo is just in the. It's like the scene in 2001. Yeah, exactly. That's true.
I was gonna say a trippy ass scene at the very end when he goes like light years into the future, into the void.
Right.
Exactly. And not only are we taking on this crazy trip, but you were seeing great shots of Jogo going like, what the hell? Where am I?
Right.
I feel nothing, but I see everything. What is going on here? But I can't quite put a spin on it because it's always changing.
Right. And then he's just before a black hole. And
a big eye in the background too at one point.
And Gojo just kind of explains to him, like in every situation, there is always infinite possibilities and things happen an infinite number of times. That's why you can never understand it.
Right.
This kind of reminded me a little bit of going through the doors of truth in Full Metal Alchemist. The reason why Ed can cast without a transmutation circle and stuff like that. Like he sees all of the truth and he's like, wait, I don't get it. I feel like I was just at the edge of understanding. But Gojo's like, you can't understand. There's too much. It's infinity or whatever. And then he's like, and then he just grabs his head and rips it off.
Rips his head off.
Yeah. He starts torturing him. We see Geto and is it Hanami at the top? Yeah, the forest.
Oh yeah, the forest curse. Who speaks in backwards?
Yeah, he speaks backwards, and then there's this creepy moment, which I will reveal to you now because it wasn't in the English. Where Geto is like, well, if anyone from the school sees me, I'm screwed. So I'm gonna bounce. And he says, "Are you gonna save him, Hanami? I don't know if your kind has such emotions." And what
he says that part,
and then what Hanami says back to him is basically, "Of course we do. After all, we are the true humans."
Oh,
yeah.
See, in the English dub version on Crunchyroll, it doesn't even let you have the subtitles to read that.
Right.
So really cool moment because this is not just a Jogo theme. Hanami, they all agree that they think they are the truest version of the humans, but
and it makes me want to read the manga more because I wonder if it was written backwards in the manga too. How is it represented? And I just love the designs in the manga. I love Mappa. I love what they're doing, but I feel like the manga is, in terms of design and everything, maybe the superior way of consuming it. Let us know if you've read the manga, if you've watched the anime. Obviously, beautiful animation. There's no substitute for it, but let us know what your preference is. Do you like the manga? Do you like the anime? Whatever. So anyway, so Gojo's torturing Jogo, then a bunch of flowers pop up, and they're like, flowers.
Yeah. It's like they forget where they're at. They kind of get disillusioned.
Yeah, their will to fight is drained from them.
Like, oh, beautiful.
Yuji is grabbed by a giant branch, and he's like, don't worry about me, go after them. And then a giant monster tree pops up. He's like I lied, save me.
And then Gojo obviously has to take his mind off of Jogo and Hanami and save Yuji, which he does. But in the moment, he's pissed because he lost him. And what does Gojo say, actually, Dan, that lets him know, like, hey, I couldn't feel his presence, or I couldn't get his cursed energy.
Yeah, he said that he couldn't feel his energy at all, and that guy might actually be stronger than Jogo, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you were saying?
That's what I was referring to.
Yeah. So
that's a really cool moment too, and a really cool, interesting ability by Hanami. So you see this grotesque, kind of tall, skeletal figure,
right?
And then you think like, oh, this guy's pretty wicked looking,
right?
But it seems like so far the curses we've seen from him are actually pretty pleasant and like not too wicked.
Yeah. And Yuji's really upset with himself. Yeah. He's pissed off that he was a liability, but Gojo's very nonplussed. And he says to him, I want you all to be strong enough to defeat that thing.
Right.
Jogo, basically.
He said, he's like, this is actually your measuring stick.
Right.
Like that was his thing. He literally said, you're going to use that. And it was fun because, Jogo is so nice about it. He's like, this was actually just a great learning experience. Gojo. God dang it.
I know.
Sorry, guys.
It's so hard.
This is tough, man. So let's just
Gojo,
change the
Jogo,
two letters around.
I know.
And fix it. I'm like, okay, whatever. But either way, they said it's a great learning experience, and just take it as a win. Basically, hey, even though we didn't accomplish any goals or find out any more information, who do you work for?
Right. He's like, this is your ultimate goal. So I want you to be strong enough to fight these guys. And the way we're going to do it is for 1 month, all you're going to do is you're going to watch movies and fight me. Mm-hmm. And Yuji's like, what? That doesn't sound like a fun time. And he's like, then after that, you're going to go on missions for special missions for practical experience. And then you're going to debut your powers at the youth event.
Dun, 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 the Tri-Wizard Tournament.
Right.
Wait, wrong series. No.
Yeah. It kind of feels like that a little bit. It does. Yeah. There are a few moments, I don't know if we've gotten to them yet, where there are some Harry Potter vibes in Jujutsu Kaisen for sure. But I love, he makes this big deal out of it, and then Yuji's like, wait, what youth event?
Yeah.
And Gojo's like, oh, I didn't tell you? That's just the end of that.
You'll probably be fighting in a tournament. But that brings us, to episode 8, right?
No, we're still a little bit more to go. Okay. We have the funny moment where Ikiji is just sweating bullets in front of the principal, who's like, where's Gojo? Because lest we forget, he was transporting him to that. And so they just, button that joke a little bit. We see Geto walk into an apartment. He immediately goes to an innate domain that is a beautiful beach.
Oh, yeah, that was pretty cool.
Where the squid curse is swimming around in the water. And then...
that's where we kind of meet Mahito.
Yeah, that's where we meet...
not Mojito, Mahito.
Mahito, yeah. So he's sitting there reading a book.
Drinking a mojito.
Yeah. Hanami comes in with, Jogo's head. Mm-hmm. Mahito is just like, you egged Jogo on, this is your fault. He's like, actually, I told him not to try to kill Gojo, but you can tell that Geto is tickled by the fact that Jogo got his head ripped off. And
they have a fun little short after this.
Yeah, it's a little thing where
they play soccer with Jogo's head.
And that's it. Yeah, that's the Jujutsu stroll for episode 7.
Which is really fun. Me and Angie, we love that part too.
Yeah. And which brings us into our final episode for this pod, episode 8, Boredom. Where we see Megumi and Nobara just chilling at some vending machines.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of them. If you've ever been to Japan, they're everywhere. There are temples, they're everywhere. These vending machines. But Nobara doesn't think there's enough vending machines.
That's the first thing he says is there's not enough. But he's like, well, there's not enough staff, and we don't, we have to be very secretive about who we let on our campus.
Right.
And honestly, it's like, how many vending machines do you need for 10 students?
Right. Yeah, totally. and so we cut to Panda, Inumaki, and Maki. It's Inumaki and Maki talking about, Panda's worried, today's the day that the Kyoto principal is coming.
Yeah.
And since he was one of the people that set Yuji up to die, it's a little bit tense, we don't know what's going to happen.
There might be some friction here between these two schools.
Right. But Maki's like, but Itadori died. He's dead. Yeah. So there shouldn't be any problems. But then Panda is like, well, I'm worried if Mai comes, because it is like Mai and Todo, they always screw with us. And then Todo immediately cuts to Mai and Todo. Is it Todo or Togo? I think
Todo.
It is Todo. Yeah, Maya and Todo show up, and they're just immediately jerks.
Yeah.
They're older classmen for sure, but they're jerks. I mean, Mai makes some comment about how disgusting it must have been to work with a person who had Sukuna's energy, so they must be so relieved that he's dead. And then Todo just immediately wants to beat Megumi up.
Yeah. He doesn't like Megumi's energy. Todo is definitely like your alpha male, your jockey kind of guy.
He's definitely more the Kevin. I'm more the Megumi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm a little nicer than Todo. I mean, I think maybe Todo does have a heart deep down somewhere, but he's not like, he's rough. I mean, he's basically like this, 6'4" looking guy. Does not look like he's in high school by any means whatsoever.
Right.
He looks like almost sumo, but he's jacked. He's got the hairstyle and everything, but he's not a sumo wrestler. He's ginormous, and he works out. He actually rips his shirt off and challenges Megumi to a fight.
Yeah, but first he asks him the question.
Yeah, he asked him about, oh God, I don't know if I'll get it verbatim, but he's like, what kind of girls are you into?
Yeah. What kind of girl
type?
are you into?
Yeah,
It's like, if you give me a boring answer, I'm gonna beat you half to death.
Yeah, and he's like, but if you're into guys, that's cool too. But as far as girls, I like one like tall, big women with big asses.
Yeah. The thing that the characteristic I imbued you with at the beginning of the show. Yeah, it's like, I like a tall woman with a big ass.
Guilty.
And Megumi does give a very boring answer. He's like, I don't have a preference just as long as she has an unshakable character.
Right? And it's funny because Mai actually like kind of has a twinkle in her eye when he says that. So she was kind of
Mai simps on him a little bit.
She simped on him a little bit there. So it's kind of funny because they're both these complete dickheads, complete assholes, which is necessary because we're trying to build friction up for the big Tri-Wizard tournament coming up.
Right.
So they're going to make sure that we got a couple of foils here, at least the beginning.
We also learned that Mai is Maki's twin sister. Right. So, I mean, because he calls her Zenin Senpai, and it's like, oh, okay, and it's explained a little bit. And then we get another tease. Again, it's the fourth tease we've gotten for Okotsu.
Yeah.
Where they're like, oh, these are the pinch hitters for Okotsu.
Right.
Like, why isn't he competing in the event? Why are you guys doing it? And so, yeah, challenges them to the fight.
Who is Okotsu? Zero clue.
We're looking at a picture of him right now.
Right.
He looks lazy, which is interesting. I like that. Like, he just looks kind of sleepy, kind of youthful, kind of lazy. I'm wondering if he kind of looks a similar design. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but there was a character that was very prominent in Jujutsu Kaisen 0.
Okay.
I remember... Yeah, actually, the more I'm looking at his face, because before I was wondering, is that Megumi that was in Jujutsu Kaisen 0? But I feel like it might be Okotsu.
Okay.
So.
All right, well, I'll get to that eventually.
We'll get to it eventually. But like, Todo is like, he's like, oh, that's such a boring answer. Yeah. He starts crying. And he punches him, and he has this funny monologue where he's chasing him down. And he's like, I knew when I saw you that you were a boring guy, but I still asked you anyway. I gave you a chance to redeem yourself in my eyes, but I can't suffer any boring person.
Yeah. So as much as I'm loving the show, but I'll be honest with you, like this whole sequence here for the next like 10 minutes, I really kind of got bored. I don't want to say like boredom is the name
the
of the
episode
title.
was the name of the episode.
The name was boredom, but I was like, okay, because the dialogue wasn't really that punchy to me, because usually the quips are pretty good.
Right.
I mean, and you know what? I'm not, I'm just doing a little complaint is that the dialogue was kind of stale and stagnant. It was very generic, like, oh, you were for this. I mean, as far as introducing characters, this is the first time so far they haven't done it in a very unique way, or they had too much backstory like already built in that, like, from the beginning. It's kind of just coming at you, and it's just like, you suck. I'm like, okay, well.
The problem is that we have... I agree with you that the steam was taken out of this episode a little bit. Although I do appreciate meeting more senpai and getting this conflict, I'm also like, Nobara is a very underdeveloped character by episode 8. We don't know anything about her except that she's, into fashion and obsessed with her own beauty or the way she perceives it. And even though we have all this mystery about Megumi, he's not a very well-defined character.
Right.
Because he hasn't done anything that really showcases who he is. David Mamet famously said, there is no character. Character is just what people do.
Right.
And in terms of what they have done, they haven't really done a lot to really stand out in the way that Yuji has. Like, Yuji, when he had no abilities, jumped in and fought a curse. Know, Yuji was able to take control of a curse. Yuji, like Yuji's more defined. Gojo is probably the most defined character, which is interesting because he's a side character. But yeah, he's done the most.
At least for now.
So we have two undefined characters. We're meeting two new characters.
Yeah, Todo. Yep.
Yeah, so we're accruing narrative debt. None of it's being paid off, and we're just kind of like, okay, well, we're expanding, but we still don't know who these people are that like we care about. And also, one thing that made me laugh hysterically is that when Mai and Nobara come into their conflict, Mai just pulls a gun.
Yeah, no, she's fucking crazy.
Yeah, she just pulls a gun. I mean, Nobara.
Yes, I'm interrupting. She does have cursed energy, so she can actually use cursed energy, right? Mai?
She can.
Yeah.
She can put cursed energy into objects. Yet she pulls a 44 Magnum,
like a rifle, like a handgun. Yeah,
yeah.
It was pretty insane. Or
just because Nobara says she had big pores.
But it's funny because like she makes fun of her sister Maki because she cannot do that, with cursed energy.
Right.
So she's like, oh, you're the Zenin of the ugly duckling of the family.
Right.
As far as energy goes and being able to use your sorcerer abilities.
Totally. Yeah. So I mean, we get Megumi fighting Todo. He uses frogs because I gotta keep my distance. He's a master of range. But we learned some crazy stuff about Todo.
Yeah. This is really cool. So evidently, Megumi's like, hey, was this the same Todo that was involved in? I don't know the name of the incident. But there's some big incident that happened like 6 months or
it was like the
earlier.
parade of 100 curses or something.
Parade of 100 curses. Basically, all hell had broken loose. And Todo, in that point, he was probably just a second year or first year.
Yeah,
he was a lot younger, and he was able to like single-handedly take out not one special grade curse, which is impressive, but also like 5 or 6 of the grade curses above that, and then just handfuls of the easy curses.
Right.
So you get actually see a beautiful animation of this mountain of curses that he defeated, but that included a special grade curse. And to do that all in once for a freshman or sophomore in school is impressive to say the least. So
pretty dope, yeah.
Little respect, even though you could tell Megumi didn't want to have to get his respect because Megumi's face is bloodied in right now.
Oh yeah.
Is that you have to give Todo a little respect because he you learn deep down, even though he doesn't like the Tokyo Jujutsu High, he is cares about humanity.
Right. And I guess he not only did this, he did it in such a way that there's a rumor going around that he can't use curse techniques.
Right.
And so Megumi asks him, is it true that you don't use curse techniques? And he goes, no, that's a false rumor. I use the curse technique against the special grade.
Yeah.
And exactly. Megumi's like, oh shit, so he didn't do it against any of the other ones?
Right.
Like, who the hell is this guy?
Or maybe it was a situation like Yuji's where he didn't even really know how to control it. It was more of a special thing. But yeah, he definitely used curse technique.
So he's pretty special. So we've got all this world building.
Tons of shit going
which
on.
At this point in my mind, I'm feeling a little bogged down by the world building. It's like I need some of this narrative debt to start being paid off a little bit because we're being charged, we're accumulating narrative debt, and I'm like, okay, but like where are we going with this?
Right.
A little bit. So we get all this world building. Megumi is about to unleash on him. He's about to unload. Like, finally, I'm gonna use my special power.
Right.
And so we're like, oh, are we finally gonna see it? But nope. Inumaki jumps in, uses his cursed speech to freeze Todo.
Yeah, another really cool moment there because Inumaki, first time you actually see him use speech, and he pulls down his face mask. Sorry, you're just going too fast. You got to slow down.
Oh, totally. Yeah. No worries. It's a fast-paced fight, guys.
I know. Fast-paced fight, and he pulls it down, and then he says,
who says?
Inumaki. What does he say?
I don't know I don't remember what he said specifically.
Well, I don't either. You know what? Let us know what he says in this episode. You can spoil that for us. I can't remember.
It's like, don't move or something, maybe. Yeah. And then Panda jumps up, punches him in the face.
Yeah, Panda knocks him down.
Like, stop hazing our first years, guys.
Exactly. I think that Panda's, like, in general, like when he comes in there just to stop the fight, I mean, which was important because there was a lot going on, a lot of Dan and I are going 100 miles a minute just to try to cover all this, that happened in 8 episodes. But we do know, long story short, is that, Todo deserves respect for being able to defeat some bad guys.
Yeah.
We know Maki and Mai are have significant sibling rivalry going on.
Yeah.
We know that Panda is actually not just figuratively a panda bear, but his character role is that of a huggable, lovable bear. He's the comfort support that always comes in for our lead characters.
Totally.
To help them, calm down or get a situation resolved and just be there as his support animal.
Right. Yeah. Weirdly, he feels more defined than even Megumi or Nobara do.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I could write Panda. I don't know if I could write Nobara and Megumi at this point.
Well, I definitely know that he's holding back bullets in the chambers for Noboru and Megumi. Megumi for sure. He'll probably never.
Yes.
Nobara, she definitely has a lot less going on. Except in the end, though, after this fight's breaking down, it does cut to Mai had beaten the crap out of Nobara, and
with a gun. It's like she pistol whipped her unconscious.
Pistol whipping him unconscious with a gun, and then I think she does Nobara. They say something. I don't know exactly what they say, but Nobara gets the upper hand and kind of puts her in a.
She uses actual jujitsu. She puts her in a rear naked choke. And she's pissed off because she wants her summer kit.
Yeah, you effed up my tracksuit.
Yeah, you put holes in my tracksuit.
She's pissed.
Give me your summer outfit. And Mai is like, you couldn't rock this anyway. Your legs are too long.
And then she says, the deepest cut ever. And she says, well, Mai, you have bad pores.
Yeah, and then just starts choking her unconscious. But then Todo shows up, and then they bounce. And there's a line a little bit before this where Todo tells Panda and Megumi, he's like, hey, let Akotsu know, like, come and do the festival. Like tell Akotsu, like, come and do it. Maybe he has a rivalry. Mm-hmm. Maybe he looks up to Akotsu. I don't know. But then Panda's like, sorry, Panda. I don't speak human or whatever. Panda's just hilarious.
He's great.
I love Panda. Yeah. So that was funny that she gets the rear naked. She got effed up by a gun. And then those two dudes leave because Todo has tickets to do a handshake with an idol.
Yeah, which is like, it's, comedic as hell because Todo's, this guy who you wouldn't expect to be obsessed with a pop star, but, he loves her.
Right. And we get a cool little, actually we do get a little, this is the best character moment we've had for Nobara so far, where she's walking with Maki and she learns like, oh, okay, so you don't even have cursed energy.
Right.
It's like, cursed energy? I can't even see curses without wearing these glasses. Mm-hmm. But she said, and it's like, well, why did you become a sorcerer? It's like, oh, because I want to piss my family off because they look down on me. And Nobara is like, I really admire you, and kind of snuggles up with her.
Yeah, I was like, oh, she can relate to that for some reason. So, we'll learn a little bit more about Nobara in the future, I'm sure, or a lot more.
Right. She kind of reminds me, I know you haven't watched Naruto. There's a character, Tenten, who doesn't use ninjutsu. She only uses weapons. Like she has weapon scrolls. She summons them. I was like, she's kind of a Tenten-esque character in that way, but maybe a little bit more important in that respect. And then we cut to the principal of Kyoto, Gokuganji, who is sitting and waiting with his assistant Bulma. She has an actual name. I'll say her name is Miwa, but I just call her Bulma. She's got blue hair, and he's supposed to be waiting for Yaga, who is the principal of Tokyo. But Yaga doesn't show up.
Yep. So it looks like Gojo walks in the room because he has, long story short, again, he explains it. He's like, I've arranged this to where he won't be here for a few more hours. Kyoto principal's pissed off, saying, you're wasting my time. I'm a very old man. I was like, I don't have much time left, and you do this to me? He's like, yeah. And so Gojo basically just explains the whole situation that he did talk about 2 episodes earlier in the morgue about how he knows that he's like, you guys sent my students there to die, essentially saying, what are you doing here? He's like, we had all agreed that we were going to keep him alive for now until we could collect the other pieces of Sukuna, but you guys went behind my back, and I'm their teacher to do this. And he's like, you guys don't know, what's going on anymore. You guys are so old and out of touch that you don't realize now that these special grade curses, he's like, I just found an unregistered one. He's like, I know that they're even above special grade. He's like, we have to reclassify these curses because there's way too many that are getting way too strong with that have their own conscious level and have abilities that we haven't seen before. Right. He's like, we have to redefine the whole system that we've been working on for hundreds of generations.
Right. And I love that he has this line where he's like, where the old man has like a very traditional Japanese line where he's like, oh, the youth of today, you have no respect.
Yeah.
And he's like, I have no intention of respecting you.
Right.
And then Miwa, aka Bulma, is like, hey, I'm going to report you for that. But in her mind, she's like, oh my God, it's Gojo. She's
crushing hard.
She's so happy. But yeah, like you were saying, yeah, he's saying we have no idea what's going on with curses. They're getting way stronger, way more intelligent. We should be bolstering the youth in order to prepare to fight them. And if you guys are going to stand in my way, like he gives them a veiled threat, basically.
Yeah, he basically threatened to kill him. The principals of the school and the other guys we haven't seen yet, which maybe we'll get a moment, a very evil specter kind of moment, or not evil, but all the principal heads or all the jujutsu masters who make decisions besides these two principals we've seen so far.
Right. And this scene didn't feel like a slog because it wasn't just like new information. It was expanding on information that we already knew. When he's talking about there are different levels of curses, there are different this or different that, he's like, and then there was the incident last year with Geto Suguru.
Okay, yes.
And it was like, oh, okay, so something's going on, you know, like, and you see this like body covered in curses, and you're
that
like,
was a crazy moment. You know?
And it's like, okay, like who the hell is Geto? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, this whole scene was actually super crucial. I mean, it was super important. I just think the last scenes that took a lot of time with the students was just a little too much to say, oh, we're going to have a rivalry between us. But this scene with Gojo and the principal, you're absolutely right. Is just crucial for the future of the plot, and it's crucial to say that these guys don't know what they're dealing with now. Right.
And then Gojo, like a boss, just like, that's all I came to say.
Yeah. See you later.
Oh, and by the way, Yaga will be here in 2 hours. Yeah. And then Gakuganji is like, hey, Miwa, go get me some tea. Mm-hmm. And she's very professional. Walks out the door and then immediately fangirls like, I'm gonna go get a picture.
Runs to go get a selfie with Gojo, and she does, and he smiles, of course, and walks over and says, "Hey, no big deal. Super smooth, lady killer Gojo, cool guy."
She comes back and Gakuganji's like, "Where's the tea?" Yeah. She's like, "Oh shit, I didn't do my duty." And then we get a little bit of a tease into the future, which for you unfortunately was not subtitled.
This sucked so bad, guys, because I'm watching this with my girlfriend, and like there's the Japanese words come on the screen, all the kanji, and there's like a 9, and it says like 19 something. It says like a time, a date. I didn't even get the exact one, but there's a 9 in there, maybe like the 9th month. But we're like, okay, we're waiting for a subtitle. There's no subtitles because it's in dubbed, but you'd think they'd at least give us the information so we know what the hell's happening. And we see Yuji walking up to this old Cinemaplex, and you can tell because there's a different kind of confidence in Yuji, right? Just in his demeanor, he walks up like a champion on his own. So like, okay, I was like, were they just announcing a time jump?
Yeah, I can see Angie going, Kevin, what the fuck does it say? Yeah. Read Japanese for me, Kevin. What the fuck? I've never heard her talk. I don't know if that's how she talks.
Not at all. No.
He's like, fuck, Kevin, what does it say?
Oh, she's not a Valley girl.
Yeah, but we also see. Okay, so in the subtitle version, it explained that a month. So now a month has passed. Right. So we have to presume also
a month has passed, which.
So Yuji has now completed his movie watching training and fighting with Gojo training. A month has passed, and there's a movie theater where a bunch of staff discovered 3 high school boys dead. Cause of death was expansion of intracranial pressure leading to respiratory paralysis. And we see that Mahito is walking in the alley. And a kid walks up to him and goes, "Hey, was that you who did that in there?"
And then he turns to, "You can see me?"
Yeah, and it's like, okay, then that's it. And then we see Yuji with a character that we haven't met yet named Kento Nanami. And they're about to go in. He's like, "Are you ready for this, kid? This is gonna look pretty crazy." And Yuji, like you said, seems more confident. They stroll inside, fade to black. That is episode 8. Yeah.
So what a great run of 4 episodes. I mean, that's an hour and a half pod right there, just on that. And that's us like going full speed just to try to get it, somewhere near an hour. But
I was trying to get it done as quickly as possible, which is why I was talking so fast at sometimes because we do operate under time constraints. But
unfortunately, editing takes time.
Such a information dump these 4 episodes. Some of it expansive, some of it additive. The additive stuff, like we talked about, a little bit more boring. I'm sure it will be expanded upon later. There's a fun Juju stroll at the end where Todo convinces Mai to go shake the idol's hand, and then she kind of starts simping for the idol a little bit.
And she kind of has a girl crush, and then the idol kind of has a crush on her a little bit.
Yeah,
I think there's a mutual kind of little romance coming, but. I just think, what do you think overall these 4 episodes? How stoked are you for the next 4?
I mean, like, I definitely want to continue. Like I said, I want to binge this show like crazy, but I'm also feeling just the weight of like trying to understand it. Because normally, if you're just watching something by yourself, no one's asking you for a take on it. No one's asking you to, what do you think is happening? Do you understand this? Like I feel like doing a pod on it, we're both taking a test on everything that happened and also trying to in some way summarize this thing that we're having a first time experience with. So,
I mean, yeah, not to toot our own horns here, but I think that breakdown you just did, those introductions, those plot points, like for us watching this for maybe the first and second time through without watching ahead, I thought we did pretty good.
I think we're doing all right. Yeah. I
let us know. We could be trash. But
Inside baseball, we were both stressed out before we hit record. We're like, do we even know what the show is talking about?
Because the eminent domain, the
government's coming to take all the property.
They're taking the property, whatever. The expansion of the new characters, good and bad characters,
right?
New curses, new unregistered special grade curses. We've got even new abilities we're learning for Yuji and how domains are broken and how they're formed and what is more powerful. And not even just domains. We learn about different kinds of cursed energy. We also learn about the invisible life force between the characters. We don't even know if that plays a bigger part in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, or is that a character trait of just Gojo?
Yeah, is it just Gojo, or is it everybody can use Infinity? Yeah,
but by not watching ahead, it's a lot tougher than I thought it would be to digest it and break it all down. But I feel for our first or second watch through these episodes,
it's very layered. I respect the author for creating such a wealth of world building before even writing it. And when you're writing and drawing 22 pages a week, you have this burden when you have this huge stockpile. It's like, well, what do I tell here? What do I do that? And in terms of that, I feel like it's being very effective. It's kept me curious. I want to keep going. I want to see what all of this stuff means. So thank you for watching along with us. Please join us next time as we cover episodes 9 through 11.
We are so stoked to get back in this. We're probably going to have to watch them the next couple days too.
9 through 12.
9 through 12.
Yeah, 9 through 12. Yeah. So keep it coming.
And that will bring us about to the halfway point. So there's 24 or 23 episodes in this season. So that once we get past 12, we're halfway there.
Right.
But all I know is I'm excited. I know, Dan, you're excited.
My prediction is that after the next 4 episodes, I'm going to be extra angry that I can't watch further ahead.
Right.
I feel like something is going to happen. I'm just going to be pissed off. And if this is your guys' first time too, let us know what your theories are.
Yeah.
We encourage everyone to watch this. This show is definitely worth watching. If you're in the United States, it's available on Netflix right now. Obviously, Crunchyroll as well. You could probably find it other places too. I wouldn't know where, but you can find it.
Well, it's on Netflix, and whoever doesn't have Netflix, it's like 1 in a million. So at least it's
right.
But either way, thanks for tuning in. Like and subscribe on YouTube, or check us on all of our streaming stations on Apple TV, Spotify, or Apple Music. Google, anywhere you can find us a podcast, you'll find us there.
Yes, and we'll see you next time in the Infinite Void.